Well, I'm taking this video, as I said I would, for a couple of friends of mine, and for my own curiosity. The significance of this house that I'm parked in front of on this Sunday afternoon, trying to be as inconspicuous as possible. This lovely house was occupied for about 2 years, from 1956 to 1958, by none other than James Douglas Morrison, better known as Jim Morrison of the Doors. His father was a naval officer, and this house is near the now decommissioned, abandoned Alameda Air Force Base. And after World War II, his father spent a lot of time on aircraft carriers when they lived in Florida, but his military obligations brought him then to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where he was an instructor on military atomic weapons programs. But as a teenager, Jim's family moved here to Alameda, California, and they lived in this lovely Edwardian shingled turret house on Alameda Avenue, which is near the Alameda Naval Air Force Base, which was one of the biggest naval Air Force bases in the country at the time. So there's a lot of significance to what went on in this part of his history, and I'm particularly interested because just over a week ago I met John Densmore, the drummer for the Doors, so it sort of piqued my interest, and I was actually just learned recently that he had lived a very pivotal point of his life was spent in this house. It's a 10-bedroom, 6-bath house. It was built in 1887, and I think it's sold as recently as 2005 for $1.1 million. I don't know who resides there now, but Jim lived by himself in the attic that you see, the top of with the turreted attic. And this was a significant part of the history of rock and roll, pretty much, because this is where Jim began at first hearing music like Elvis Presley, listening to Ricky Nelson, and that sort of formed his musical persona. His mother also listened to a lot of Frank Sinatra in the lower levels of the house, and Frank Sinatra was also one of his inspirations. But most importantly, not only musically, but at this point in time, in about 1956, 1957, Jack Kerouac had released On the Road, and the beat poet generation had started, which was a precursor to the hippies. And as a teenager, Jim's neighbor and he used to go down to North Beach. Spent a lot of time in North Beach in San Francisco, which at the time was the headquarters for the Beatnik Poets. And they used to go to coffee houses, listen to poetry, hang out, and that really influenced his literary ability. I think his neighbor's name was Fudd Ford. I don't know if the house still exists that his neighbor lived in, since it looks like it's a fairly modern apartment building, but it's nice to know that this house has still been preserved. So Jim went to Alameda High School, which is about 0.6 of a mile from here. Between September 1957, he went to 10th grade in the fall of 1958. And after that, they moved to Alexandria, Virginia. Interestingly enough, the first poem that Jim Morrison ever wrote, supposedly, was a poem called Pony Express. It's been lost since then, but evidently it was based on a Western he saw at a Saturday afternoon matinee while living here in Alameda. And so, interestingly enough, this is where a lot of his musical and literary visions began, where he caught the so-called beatnik poetry virus, and sort of the rest is history. So to be as inconspicuous as possible, I'm just going to take a short walk around the house and get a little closer view. Quite a lovely home.